Good morning and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to welcome you to session 1 of our new Data and Tech sessions. These are hosted by Farmplan and are exploring the importance of making data and technology work for you to improve performance, better decision making and profitability. Today, session 1 kicks off with a look at keeping things simple when it comes to task management and record keeping. The option to drive efficiency through the levels of integration, and of course the importance of accuracy and best practices to maintain this are a feature of today's webinar.
Morning again, and thank you, Emily. Just going to introduce Emily first of all, and the rest of the crew this morning. Emily is a team leader for software support. She covers Gatekeeper and accounts, and she's going to keep things in order this morning, driving the presentation, picking up your questions and managing the couple of polls that we've got a little bit later on in the webinar. Myself, I'm Simon Eagle. I've been working in the East as the Regional Account Manager, working alongside many AGCO dealers in the region, such as TNS, Chandler's and Peacock and Binnington. And of course, my colleagues covering the rest of the UK are doing a similar thing. Of course, we've got Adam as the next member of the team from Farmplan. He's a software training manager and he specialises in Gatekeeper. And he's trained clients right the way through and across the industry, obviously including the growers, but also agronomists, dealer specialists, and even universities. So he's picked up a broad insight over the years with Farmplan. And we've also got Andy Wolf at hand to offer a real expertise on Gatekeeper as Gatekeeper support manager. He's really a mine of knowledge when it comes to Gatekeeper and industry-wide integration. So pretty well fielded the session this morning. And of course, definitely we're really happy to invite Ben Bell as our guest speaker from AGCO this morning. And Ben has been working with AGCO for 13 years and is one of their Fuse product engineers. For much of the time, he's been specialising in precision agriculture and working hand in hand with us and specifically Gatekeeper. But he's far better qualified than I am to give you a bit more background on his role and within AGCO and what it entails in the next couple of minutes. So if I just move on to the agenda. So Ben will take us through the AGCO smart farming. So he's going to be chatting about some of the everyday challenges we all face and ways of working around these with the technology that we've got now. They'll be thinking of where you might sit on the spectrum of the smart farming and considering your place in that and what activities you're doing with technology and what you're embracing. Fent One and Gatekeeper, he's also going to look at some of the pros and cons of Fent One against Gatekeeper and generally farm management systems. And then he'll be finishing off with a demonstration and an overview of Fent One technology and its task management. And then Adam will be picking up with variable rate applications. So he'll be looking at the next level up and at Gatekeeper, creating the variable plans, focusing on prescriptions, target prescriptions, and the integration with the Varidoc terminal. And then we'll be wrapping up at the end with a Q&A session as well. So that should take us over sort of well into the next hour. So without any further delay, I will pass over to Ben to kick things off. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, so as Simon said, I've worked for AGCO now just over 13 years and currently in the role of a Fuse product engineer. So we're a team based in Europe, so not specifically in the UK, just over 20 of us now. And the role that we have is to promote and support smart farming. Now this has many facets to it, but as a general thing, everything to do with precision farming topics is included. And it's not specifically Fent. We look after the Massey Ferguson and Valtra brands as well. Some of the subject matters you'll be familiar with would be isobus, guidance, section control, variable rate control, our recently introduced telemetry system, and specifically relevant here is the task stock and data transfer part of our systems. So if I could just move on to the next slide, Emily, please. Thank you. So some of the challenges that we all encounter in our working lives is trying to get this balance of and the compatibility of field work, office work and family life. And there's many challenges, so we see increasing levels of administration required and operational effort to get things up and running. And in practice, there's on the ground, there's a lot of recordings and data that we generate on the tractors that we need to manage, keeping the right side of all the compliance and regulations that are in place for us at the moment. Manpower, whether it be shortage of manpower or training people, that's always a challenge. And there's a look outside the window now and it's pouring down with rain. The extreme weather that we seem to be having in more recent years. And there's extra challenges come with running mixed fleets and connecting devices and things together. And often we have historically seen that this common language to try and get things to work together is missing or doesn't work as we hope and expect it to. So plenty of challenges in our lives, and what we're trying to do is trying to make those challenges a little bit easier. So if we could just move on, Emily, to the next slide. So what do we see? There's some very common speech bubbles here. Yeah, it's too complicated. Yeah, haven't got time for it. Who's going to pay for it? And also concerns about your data, which always act as a drag to sort of maybe dissuade you from accepting technology and moving on with things that actually might make our lives better. So what we want to do is address those concerns and challenges and hopefully make life easier for everybody and a little bit more productive and profitable. So if we could just move to the next slide, Emily. Thank you. So little slide here, it looks a little bit busy, but it's the idea is here we can see the evolution of farming and the journey that many of us have been on. If we go back a long while, we had the initial mechanization of farming and then mass production. More recently, though, we've seen automation. So each of these stages in the evolution bring with it a challenge. So how to do it, so the operational side of it, and also how to manage it. And hopefully from this slide, you can see some of the challenges there. So when we brought automation, that was things like AutoGuide. So we started off with AutoGuide, varied transmissions, and we had to learn how to operate those. And also along with that, we had to document what we was doing and trying to record some of these activities. But those features brought the opportunity to have this machine optimization, so try and get the maximum usage out of a machine and trying to increase our accuracy in the field. So AutoGuide is a really clear thing. You can see that you improved efficiency because you're more accurate in your operations in the field, and so you've got less overlaps, and so therefore more efficient. More recently, we've seen automation move on to precision farming. So this is physical operational tools like Isobus, section control, and TIM. So the TIM is a new standard that's been recently released. This is tractor implement management. It's another ISO standard, and what that's doing is it's effectively connecting the machine, so the implement and the tractor, into one combined unit. So you can optimize the tractor and the implement as one unit. And here we're moving on to accuracy in field zones. So where we was just with the guidance, it was your lane pass-to-pass accuracy. Now we're looking at section control and variable rate control in specific zones in the field. As we move forward now, the new challenge facing us all is the smart farming revolution. And to help us on the way, as a company, we're introducing the Fent One concept, which both has an onboard and an offboard side. So you have the physical element on the tractor, and we're also introducing the office side, so the offboard side of the concept. And what we're looking at here is we're going to look at the total cost of farm management and the whole process to be optimized. So this is not just tractor implement, it's logistics, storage, and whatever machine developments come out in the future. So this is probably going to lead us into autonomous vehicles. And what we're looking at from a productivity point of view, we're moving from field zones to specific plant care. So we're looking to really look down at individual plants and attend to them individually rather than on a larger scale. So this is a journey. We're all in different stages of the journey. Emily's just going to do a quick poll now, just to get some feedback from you of where you think you are sitting on that journey. So just take a moment, just click on the poll and see. It'll be interesting to see where everybody is.
We've got about 75% voted now, Ben, but I'll just give it another 10, 15 seconds to give everyone a chance. I'll share the results in a minute, but it's quite interesting so far. Everyone's voting. There's a definite outright winner.
I think there'll be people on precision farming would be my winner, but we'll see.
We're just over the 80%, so I'll just close the poll now and just share the results with everybody so we can all see.
Yep.
And you were right, Ben.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, automation. So there's a lot of people just using the auto guide, not variable rate controls, probably, or Icebus implements, and some groundbreaking customers out there stepping into the smart farming future. Lovely. Right, so we'll carry on. So if just move to the next slide, please, Emily. Lovely. So Fent One, when we look at it, you may encounter some of our salesmen who are selling you a Fent One tractor. Really, Fent One is a concept. Tangibly, it isn't necessarily a physical product. It's more of a concept. So we have the concept built up of a series of modules. I'm just going to look today at the agronomy module. And the idea is that with all the functionality that we have now on the tractors and in the office, we want to make them complement each other and be a seamless experience. So with agronomy, it's basically Fent TaskDoc. You may be more familiar with it being called Varidoc. We've aligned the name to TaskDoc now, and it aligns with our other brands. And it has two elements. It has an onboard element, which is the physical tractor side of it, where the operator processes tasks and collects task data. So that could be he's following a prescription map for applying fertilizer, or he's harvesting and collecting yield data, but all sorts of other opportunities. And then we've got the offboard side of the task, where there's the planning and the administration and viewing that task. And the idea is that if we just click to the next slide, Emily, that becomes a seamless experience, and the data flows seamlessly as well. So this is what the aim is to make your life a little bit easier and more productive. So if we just click to the next slide, please, Emily. So the offboard side of Fent One is basically a web-based, very lightweight farm management software package. And just to try and explain to you where it sits, I've got a simple graph in front of you with ever-increasing complexity going across the right and ever-increasing functionality going on the vertical axes. And see, we've positioned Fent One clearly in the bottom left-hand corner. So it's quite limited functionality, but it's very simple to use. So there's benefits to that. So it's by taking a lot of complexity out of it, it's easy to get started with. It aligns very well with what's in the Fent tractors because we've got control of both ends. So the touch interface will be familiar to anybody using the tractor. The symbols, everything aligns and looks familiar. But there's limitations come with that as well, and there's no agronomic planning functionality. no compliance, and no real analysis functionality. What we see then, if you take a look at a high-end FMIS like Gatekeeper, there's benefits to that of having high levels of functionality and high levels of complexity, such as the ability to process lots of data, be compatible with many different formats. You have all the compliance, crop performance, and gross margin maps you can produce. But again, yeah, with anything, there's give and take, and the limitations with it is it's a high level of sophistication, and it requires investment in time and training to really get the best out of the system and really make use of it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a short video, and in the video I'm going to take you through creating a task in the Fent One portal, sending it to a tractor, showing you what happens on the tractor, and then allow the data to come back into the Fent One portal and show you how we can view that data. So that should just start in a moment. And then the data and the tasks that we've shown, you'll see we can, some of that is coming from Gatekeeper. So I think the task actually came from Gatekeeper. So you can see the integration between the two systems is pretty seamless. Okay, if I can just hand over to the video. We're going to take a look at the Fent One portal. Here we can see it's made up of a series of tiles. This tile on the top left is your machines. Here below that we have the team. On the right hand side at the top we have fields, which is a database or your field boundaries and way lines that are in those fields. Below that we have Map Plus, which is an overview of the farm and the machines in real time. Here we're going to look at creating a task and follow the process through. I'm going to create a tillage task, so I click on tillage, and then the system asks me which machine I'm going to use for the task. I'm going to click on this 720, who is going to be driving the machine, what implement we're going to use for that task, and then where we're going to do this task, so which fields. You can select one or multiple fields. Once selected, you just press the next button. We can then select the crop that this task is in relation to. We don't have to, this is an option. I've selected wheat. We've now got an overview of the task, the fields, the crop, the machine and so on. We can download this task to a USB stick, or we can send the task directly to the tractor. There, it's gone. So let's have a look at where the data goes now and how it flows to and from the tractor. On the screen in front of us we can see at the top there's the TaskDoc server. This is a cloud-based platform where the tasks are stored and handled. On the left we've got Gatekeeper and Fent One. The tasks or data can flow in both directions to one or both of these platforms. So you can just send tasks from Fent One, or just from Gatekeeper, or to and from both of these simultaneously. When a task is on the server, it sits there until the tractor's started. The tractor dials in, downloads the task is then carried out, the completed task is then uploaded to the server, where it then is made available for Gatekeeper and Fent One as you've decided. Let's have a look on the tractor what happens. So the tasks download automatically into the tractor. We arrive into a field and we know we've crossed the field boundary and the field is now offered for selection. Quick overview, it's the right field. And because we've sent a task for this field, it's now available for selection. You simply click on the task, press the tick, and it's loaded up. Next, select the prescription map that this task is relating to, and we can see that as an overview. This isn't a task I sent from Fent One, this is one that Adam sent from Gatekeeper, just so we've got a prescription map a bit more interesting to see. We can see on the right hand side the target rate is being set on the fertiliser spreader. This is an Isobus implement, and it's actively looking at the target rate and adjusting that as we move off. Once completed, we simply go back into the task menu. Normally this would be automatic. When you leave the field boundary, I was still in the field, so I had to do it manually. But we can pause the task, we can have an overview and a quick view of the task if we want to. And once we're happy with everything, we simply press the button on the right hand side with the cloud and the padlock. Again, a quick overview, and press the tick, and the task is now uploaded to the server. This only takes a few seconds, and once completed, we can move back to the Fent One portal for an overview of what happened in that task. Here we simply click on the task.doc reports tile, go into this menu, we get an overview of the task completed. We can filter those tasks by crop and category. If we want to manually import tasks via USB stick, we can click here. Now I'm going to go into the task and see the detail. We've got the field, the area, the crop, and the start and finish time of the task. Below that, we've got the tractor or the machine information from the tractor. So the area covered, and then you've got ineffective and effective, distance, time, and fuel. Here we can see the effective fuel is 7.21. This is decilitres. It reads that until you get to 1 litre, so it's 0.721, which you wouldn't normally see. You'd normally just see that displayed in litres. Further down, we can see information coming from the implement. So the area with applied product, the again effective and ineffective time and distance, and the total mass of product applied. We can drill down into the map for more information and more detail. Here we get an overview of the field and a little snail trail that shows us where we've driven in the field. We can look at more detail. So here we can look at engine speed, wheel speed. I'm just selecting wheel speed, and you can see as I've changed speed, the colour changes on the map. We can make a comparison, so I'm just going to select engine speed, and now I've got a comparison between engine speed and wheel speed. We could set the target map and the as applied map, but I was only using a simulator and that doesn't report correctly. Once we're happy with the overview, any comparisons, we can come back out. We can then download a PDF copy of the task and keep it electronically or print it out, or come back to the main menu for any further work. I hope you found that useful.
Thanks for that, Ben. That was really useful, I would say. So I'll hand over to Adam now from Farmplan, who's just going to look at a bit more of the gatekeeper side of things for us. I think you were beginning with a poll. Am I correct, Adam?
Yeah, that's correct. Just before I launch that, can I just check you can hear me, and hopefully the audience can hear me as well. So if I'm having any problems with audio, please just pop it in the chat box. But hopefully you can all hear me, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Ben for that demonstration and discussion on the Fent and AGCO side of things. So yeah, Emily, if we can just launch that poll now, we might have some clues as to potential results with the answers to the last one. But I just wanted to go, I'm going to talk about variable rate activity. So I just wanted to, before we go into that, just see if anybody is currently engaging in any variable activity. Just a simple yes or no.
We've got 80% voted now, Adam.
Brilliant.
Just give it another 10 seconds.
Kind of what we're expecting there, I think. Looking at that kind of aligns with the journey that people are on from automation into the precision farming and smart farming journey. And there we are at 72%. A lot of people then engaging in variable rate activity. And so hopefully then there'll be some, what I'm going to cover now is of interest. So what I'm going to go through is not how to create a variable rate task in Gatekeeper, but keeping it simple. You know, the title of this was Efficiency and Simplicity. It doesn't need to be a big complicated thing to be using Gatekeeper to be doing this. Just before we launch the video, what I'm going to be going through is how I created the task that I sent out to Ben. So the field I sent out to him was created. So Ben created the field boundary, sent that across to me wirelessly. I mean, we're sat 90 odd miles apart from each other, and all of this was done wirelessly through the task system. And what we're going to see is going through. So I've already got the boundary in. Every journey needs to start somewhere, and a variable rate activity needs to be based upon something. So I created a sampling set of data based on Ben's field boundary within Gatekeeper, and then I use that as a basis to create a variable rate TSP map for him, which I then sent back. And that's what we're going to look for in the video. So, Emily, if you could play the video, please. So I'm just using the field map function here in Gatekeeper against a particular field. And in the field map, you've got the ability to see every single spatial job that's ever been done to a field. And like I say, I created a sampling job here, and we've got the raw plot data underneath there. So there's sampling points per parts per million. And this is where we've always got to be careful when we're looking at data. So the contour map you could see there was based on kriging, which is just the algorithm and interpretation method of that plot data. If I change that to nearest neighbour, we see a completely different picture on there. So it's always understanding that we need to be appreciating the raw data we're working with and not just being misled by contour maps on the top. So that gridding method becomes important in a number of different ways. Now, within your setup menu in Gatekeeper, you have the ability to set up grid templates or generator templates. And I created one for the TSP application I sent to Ben. But you can do them for seeds, you can do them for all sorts of things. And just to give you an example of another one, this is a very, very simple drilling seed rate map that I've done on here. This is quite clever though, because in Gatekeeper, I've based this on percentages, and using the final adjustment, you can come in and put the drilling rate of the day in there. So you can create your seed rate based on the rough percentages of how you want to go up or down, and then change to a particular seed rate on the day. This one that I'm going through here, though, this is the TSP map that I created for him. And I've just used the book values out of RB209 there to create some application rates based on the index levels within the sample job. You can also mix this in with yield data and a whole host of other sources of data if you want to. And what Gatekeeper will do is I base this on nutrient values alone, and Gatekeeper will take the product analysis and convert that into a fertilizer application rate for us. And it can also do clever things as well, like minus the amount of nutrient already supplied through your muck applications and things like that you might be putting through Gatekeeper as well. And then once you set your templates up, it's really, really quick to go and put these into a plan. So everybody's probably familiar with who's got Gatekeeper using the planning module. So we just build that in exactly the same way as we would do anything else. We give our plan a name, we allocate it to a group, which is quite useful if you're filing, got lots of work activity on. And we add the job as normal. It does need to be a field operation job, but you go through this in exactly the same way that you're familiar with building any type of job on here. So there is nothing extra in this bit in regards to building a variable rate job in Gatekeeper to building a flat rate job that you do sort of dozens of times in a year. We should be associating an implement with this as well, though, so that Gatekeeper's got the implement width details, etc., for recording these things. And I've got my tractor unit picked as well. So under the Fields tab here, this is where it all happens. This is where we access the target grid generator. And there's a little tick box to provide verification maps for it. Now, because I've already created templates, it literally is as simple as coming in, clicking Generate Target Grid, and it references the underlying sampling data that I brought into Gatekeeper with my computations, and there we go. And as you can see, that actually references the sampling map we saw a minute ago using that nearest neighbour analysis gridding method on there. And you'll notice that there's some spaces there where the index levels are okay, so that we don't need to apply anything on there. So there are some zero rate application levels in there too. Now to get it out to the machine, before we do this, obviously you only set your device up once, but just to briefly recap on that, if people haven't got this set up, using the cloud credentials under the setup devices, we put all the credentials in, the server name, your password and username, etc. And please make sure you've got a tractor highlighted on there as well, otherwise you won't be getting it out to this device. And then under the device sync tab, it's a case of coming into the export, making sure that you're passed to a folder that it can put it in somewhere, and then making sure that your field groups you want to export, the crops you need to export, any guidance lines you need are all selected for export together with product list. And then just a case of clicking on the plan, making sure though that we tick the little box down below there to make sure the job target maps go with that plan as well, otherwise you'll just be left with a flat rate looking plan on the box. Once that's exported, hopefully goes successfully, and then we click the upload button and it wings its way off to the tractor unit. And like I say, this was all done wirelessly through me sat here in Suffolk up to the Ben's tractor up in Lincolnshire. And you can see from the boundary shape and the map I sent out, that was the same field and same job that Ben went through on his recording on there. When we come back to import then, we always want to make sure, rather than just ticking the import box, we double click in the new plan column, because then we can associate it back to the original plan that was sent out, and that makes the flow of data much more streamlined and much easier to bring in, but it'll be much more accurate as well. So here we go. That's the field, that's the documentation coming back in from Ben, his start and finish times on there, the area he completed and the quantities, etc. And then back on the field map, there you can see that's the same route trace that we saw on Ben's target stock terminal within the tractor itself. I've got the route trace on there, the same that he drove on there. And what looks like missing data isn't actually the zero rate application areas that I had on there as well. So that's come back into Gatekeeper now, and then we can start using that to start populating our margin map with, to add to the rest of our applications list, to build up to our crop gross margin through the year and our fertilizer application records. So I think that's the end of the video there. So we can close that one down now, Emily, I think.
Yep, I'll just switch back over to the presentation. I think you had another poll next. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah, so after that, seeing how simple it can be to get yourself using Gatekeeper to create your variable rate prescription maps and things with, just wanted to see if anybody out there is doing that, or whether people are using service provider for their variable rate activity. So if we can launch that poll and just get a quick show of hands on how people are actually, because there's a large chunk of the audience doing this, how are they actually setting up their variable rate maps?
We've got some quick voters today. You're all nice and engaged. It's great. We're up to 75% already.
Didn't send everyone to sleep. That's a good sign.
I'll just give it another 5 seconds or so.
Quite interesting, actually.
Definitely. We're 80% voted, so I'll close the poll and just share those results with everybody now.
Okay, so a little bit different. I was potentially expecting a little bit less on the in-house side. I was thinking that we were going to have the majority using via a service provider. But potentially, you know, after seeing that, maybe you didn't realise that templates can all be set up in advance and have their preset ready to go. And the other good thing with the grid generator templates in Gatekeeper is they can utilise a number of different sources. So like I said in there, that I created a very simple application map for some TSP, but we could be incorporating into that same computation another section for our yield data and looking at the yield data values and then replacing offtake in conjunction with the index map. When we're creating seed maps in Gatekeeper, we can be utilising a number of different sources, not just field zones and things that maybe you've had EC scanned or you've drawn zones for yourself. But we could also be put into their zones for pest damage, weed infestation, trying to look at establishment maps and trying to influence drilling rates to take account of that. All of those can be stuck into a single grid generated template, and the computations can be built up as many as you want. So we can actually create in Gatekeeper an application map that takes into account a number of different factors to help you achieve what you're trying to get. And like I said, once those templates are set up, it doesn't matter how many fields we want in a job. We can put 10, 20, 30, 50, 70 fields in one job, hit the click generate target grid button, and bang, we've got application maps for the whole lot, and they're there when you want them, ready to go. So I think it's about using the right tool for the job, though. So I think what we've seen through all of this, there's some great functionality and features with the Fent One and with the offboard side of doing that, the simplicity, ease of use, and the transfer of data and things. And also thinking about that Gatekeeper doesn't look at the machine side of things as much. So it's not looking at how the machine performed as much as the agronomic data that's coming back from it. So I think it's about trying to blend everything that we've got and making sure that we've got the right tools in the toolbox and we're using them appropriately in different places. So, you know, use Gatekeeper if that's good for you, use the service provider, but even if you're using the service provider to create the maps, I'll still encourage you to send it in and out to the tractor unit via Gatekeeper, because that way we're managing the workflow in there, or you could use your Fent One system on there as well if you wanted to. So I think we'll just, after my little bit now, I think we're going to go to our question and answer session, Emily, is that right?
We are, yes. So let me just, you should hopefully be able to now see our slides again, and I'll hand over to our colleague Simon. Over to you.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, just before I go into my little slide here, just as a reminder, if you want to send any questions or pose any questions to us, there's that little slide out console on the side that Emily mentioned right at the start. Just pop your questions in there. I thought I'd just give it a little bit of a warm up before the Q&A starts. And yeah, I thought it was worth, just this slide here is something that we were running a precision farming bundle for those clients that are running Gatekeeper, but looking to adopt what we were talking about this morning. We ran it last year, and I thought it dovetailed so well with the sort of content that it was just a bit of a no-brainer to say, well, let's run this again, and it's going to be limited time up to the end of the month. But if anybody is interested, then normally, as you see, it's something that would cater for all that we've spoken about today, with the integration of AGCO and other files and manufacturers as well. And normally it's a price of over £1,300, and it's a really keen offer down to £695. It is subject to a couple of hours remote training at £120. That would be the value, but it is something we would always recommend anyway with any product, whoever you buy it for, to make sure you get the most value out of it. I've also, not on the slide, but it's something that we were doing as a sort of a side offer, is that those clients who are on mapping but looking to sort of move forward into the precision world, we're also doing those modules which are normally the 2 PF modules. They're normally 355, and we're doing them for only 200. Again, we would be subject to an hour's remote training at £60. So, as I say, it's something that I thought is well worth sort of reigniting and carrying on to the end of the month, just to see whether anybody is thinking about it, and it encourages them to step into it at a lot lower cost than it would normally be. Yeah, the other thing that I was going to mention, and I'll apologise to Emily now, just moving slightly on, and we're going to have some more of these sessions, and about, and we're looking to, we've got one planned with AGCO near a harvest, data capture and getting more out of what data you have and the means of improving sort of performance and profitability. So looking at that side, but I will, after stealing your thunder, and I apologise if that's the case, Emily, because I probably should have poked that in at the start. Then I'll move you back to the questions.
Great, thanks, Simon. No stealing of thunder, never apologise. So is the questions section available? I can see a few of you have found it and are asking some really good questions, but feel free to keep asking those. As I said at the start, no such thing as a silly question. I want to start with one, if that's okay, mainly for you, I think, Ben, asking, will there be a similar process, albeit with a USB stick, for the MF, I'm guessing Massey Ferguson, Datatronic 4 screens?
Thanks, Emily. For the Datatronic 4, it technically is possible, but in practice it doesn't work so well. The Datatronic 4 terminals are a little bit antiquated now, to be perfectly honest, and for variable rate applications, they just struggle. We've moved on a bit. So FieldStar 5, Datatronic 5 work absolutely fine, but Datatronic 4, it's not a platform that we would really encourage this sort of activity.
That's great, thank you. Question potentially for you, Adam. Someone who's using SOIL for their nitrogen variable rate maps, and can these be imported into Gatekeeper and then exported out to their Fent sprayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Just checking everyone can hear me. I apologise if people couldn't hear me through that, but The video will go up of this online afterwards, and you can always get in touch if anything wasn't clear during the video. So sorry about that for those who are having problems hearing me. Yeah, absolutely. If you're using a service provider, that's great. And like I said, it is the right tool for the job or right for your situation, your business. So if you are using soil rise, precision decisions, etc., if you're creating your variable rate applications, definitely the soil nitrogen plant can come into Gatekeeper. And we would always recommend that you do that, actually, like I said, to bring it in, because hopefully the rest of your operations are also going to be in Gatekeeper as well. And it helps them manage that workflow. Once they're in Gatekeeper, you can give them a tweak or something if you need to as well. But then you can get them exported to the tractor unit in the same way that we saw demonstrated in the 2 videos there. If you need a hand with that, just give the support line a ring, or drop onto the website and look for through the support FAQs there. Or certainly reach out to one of us after this, and we'll get back in touch and drop you a guide on how to do that.
Great, thank you, Adam. Someone's just saying, shame they can't catch up with you at the Highland show this year, Ben. They'll be missing out on chatting with you about Fent One. Question about using web apps. They've obviously used someone who's got the Gatekeeper web apps, and whether Fent One could maybe be a replacement for that, not with variable rate applications. Don't know who feels most qualified, Andy or Adam, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're not doing variable rate applications. So if there's no spatial element that's being required, then realistically, I suppose either or, as Ben's shown, that Fent One can handle just task data going past up, past back. No different really to the web apps. So either or, it's entirely up to them as the customer.
Great, thank you. We've had a few questions about other connections and other manufacturers coming in, whether we integrate with Amazon, specifically the Amatron 3 control box. And
we do.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah, we do. They utilise the same ISO XML 11783 format, so it is only USB though. So that's sort of, you don't have the wireless technology that obviously AGCO have to be able to pass that data back and forth more seamlessly.
Great, thanks, Andy. We have had a question. Oh, we've got quite a lot coming in. That's great. Someone asking about moving away from service providers and our recommended methods for, tricky one, retrieving the raw data for Greenleaf Index. They've said for you, Adam.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think there are other options to explore. I presume we're talking about nitrogen applications here, so there are things that we could do to look at that. But for NDVI particularly, there is nothing presently in Gatekeeper, but things are always evolving, and the data sources that we have access to and that will become part of future products may be different and may look to include that. So I'm afraid at the moment, if you're using that for your own applications, there's nothing else we can do for you purely in Gatekeeper. But as things evolve, that might be something that comes in later programs and stuff. And so sorry, I can't be too much more positive on that one. I'll give you a real answer on that one. Just while I was talking there, just looking at some of the questions from Andrew Melton as well about the functionality. Well, yeah, there is, absolutely, and that's why I always say, top tip for everybody that I talk to when I'm talking about training or talking about Gatekeeper in general, is always have a plan of the output that you require from it. Because you're absolutely right, Andrew, there is so much functionality built into the program, it's hard to know and separate the wood from the tree. So I think what we kind of need to do is, the first thing to do is just call up and have a chat with us. And what we probably want to do is just discuss, well, what are the output requirements? And this is what I encourage everyone to do, is to look at what do you need the product for? Why did you buy it in the first place? Or where can it help you? Or where do you think it might be able to help you? And kind of figure out a plan of where Gatekeeper's got the most value, where it can create the most bang for your buck. And then we can look at uncovering some of those features maybe you didn't know were there, doing some training or something, or just using the support guys just to help you develop that feature on there before. But what we are going to do, like Emily said at the start, Simon said, this is the first in a number of the data and sessions that we're going to be doing. We've got exciting new training products that we're bringing on stream that are going to be pre-processed as well later on in the year. So keep checking in about developments with the training side of stuff, and that will feature some target grid generator courses and things like that as well. And obviously, we're just going to always keep updating our support material and FAQs, videos, and things. So we'll try and help you out with that as much as we can.
Thanks, Adam. I've got a couple of questions for Ben, if that's okay. Sorry to interrupt. They're coming in now. Someone's got a 724 that has N-trip RTK for data transfer. Is that how it passes data to the cloud, or would they have to have the new Fent One?
No, so all the platforms with a 10.4-inch terminal, and specifically if you've got N-trip, you've already got a SIM card for that, and so yeah, that's how the data flows. It may be that you've got the system, but you haven't got a SIM card in there for your GPS signal if you're just running on EGNOS or something. But you can, yeah, just fit a basic data SIM, and that will connect. So you'll have your connection to Gatekeeper straight away. The Fent One product, yeah, hasn't been released yet, and yeah, it will be a gradual rollout this year. So yeah, don't expect to get full access to it this year. It will be a very gradual rollout of the product, just to ensure a high level of satisfaction and functionality that people are happy with.
That's really good. Thanks, Ben. We've had another question about importing RTK AB guidance created in a Fent machine to then get those to work in a John Deere machine. Adam, I guess you could take that one.
I'm not sure if Ben might give that one for Andy, actually.
Andy?
I was going to say, in essence, and it's similar to the other one about the tram lines, wanting to be able to place them in the same place every year. So fundamentally, Gatekeeper, any AB guidance line, and we handle pretty much across the board straight AB curve and adaptive AB lines that are imported into Gatekeeper. Once they are in Gatekeeper, can obviously be passed out to any compatible manufacturer's system that can handle those AB lines as well. So yes, I'm pretty confident in saying that Fent AB lines can come in and can go out as John Deere, and equally any AB lines stored in Gatekeeper are stored to sort of 7 decimal places in terms of accuracy, so they are there and they can be filed on a layer specific, and you can keep them for year on year if you're doing control traffic, and sent out the following year and the following year, so you're always in those same locations. Regardless of the boundary moving, the AB lines are static in the system, so your boundary could change every year, but those AB lines will be where they are.
That's great. Thanks, Andy. A couple of questions asking about Adam's sound. We will get him a headset. Don't worry for the continued series. If anyone's got any more questions, please feel free to feed them in. I haven't got too much else coming in that we haven't answered, I don't think. Couple of questions. There is a question about it's complicated to produce a work plan that they can export.
Yeah, I saw that one as well, Emily. I don't want it to look like we shy away from the difficult questions either. It's one thing we always get back on our MPS feedback and things is about Gatekeepers, complicated to use and etc. And part of that is because it's so feature rich. There's so many things that you can put with it. But there are ways to streamline that. So in the interim, I would say that, to be honest, I created a variable rate plan there. That video was no more than 6 minutes, and that was from start to finish of creating a template and a variable rate activity and sending it out. So time-wise, there might be a few steps in there, but it's quite short. But I appreciate that you are led through a series of streams to get to your plan out there. There are ways that we can streamline that. So, for example, if you've never tried using templates before, that might be worth a call to support line, just checking about how to set up a template, because that doesn't use the time it takes you to build your work plans. There are options of creating the work plans in different ways, so that you can have when you create the job, you don't go through the wizard. You simply start with a blank screen and add your products and add your fields as you want them. Also, we do take on board the feedback, and we do know that sometimes customers do feel that it is a bit complicated to use. And Gatekeeper is always being kind of improved wherever we can. So I would say on that point, keep talking to us and keep watching throughout this year. Might maybe see some developments on that front as well.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Adam. There is a question now about a guide for creating variable rate plans or contacting support. And we do have a guide on that on our website. What I will do is make sure that we send out a copy of that with today's recording to make it available to everybody.
Emily, can I just wanted to say thanks for Murray. No, it's not an issue with the headset for me. Thank you very much, mate. Also to Tom Sargent as well. I will Tom, get in touch. We have got a guide on the target grid generator, which I can send out to you after this. And if anybody else wants it, just drop it in the chat and I'll email you the guide for the grid generator as well.
Brilliant. There's a couple more questions coming in. There's a good one about the cheapest and simplest way to zone map each field accurately. That might be one for you, Andy, I don't know, or Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I can take that. Adam showed kind of the use of the grid generator, but I suppose being even more simplistic than that, if you really just want to look at your fields and draw a polygon that says this area is to be treated differently to something else, like we can that's kind of the most basic way of doing it. But if you have that insight on your field already, and that's sufficient, then I would suggest that's probably the most easiest way to start in variable rate mapping. You don't need to have a huge amount of insight, literally just drawing a zone on a field and then treating that zone differently to the other areas, which we can show you how to do it. And quite simply, yeah, you guys know your fields better than anyone else or any service provider. So we can certainly show you, the sport can show you how to do that very simply. And I would say, yeah, for a couple of minutes spent on each field, that's the biggest bang for your buck to get into variable rate.
Definitely. Thank you, Andy. One more question for you. Someone's importing data from Fent tractors, and when they import it into Gatekeeper, many of the fields come through showing question marks rather than the implement they've used and the operator, etc. Is there something they can do in Gatekeeper to fix that?
Yes, everything in Gatekeeper, once data's in Gatekeeper, you can amend, append, correct, and anything. Now, interestingly, I've in the process of looking through the next version of ISO, which I believe will correct the implement tractor unit area. It's a standard, but a standard that everyone looks at and does in their own way. So it's not always the easiest, but it's certainly something we can correct in Gatekeeper, and we will look and endeavour to work better with manufacturers to be able to bring in those implements and machines as they're being recorded in the tasks.
Great, thank you. And one for you, Ben. Can Fent One be accessed through Fent Connect?
Well, the programs are linked. So within Fent One, there is a link to Fent Connect, but it isn't currently an active link the other way around, possibly just because it hasn't been released yet. But Fent One not only shows you task data, it also makes telemetry data available as well. So you might be able to, you're looking at a task of a machine and you can actually see how fast the machine's going, how much fuel's in it in real time, and that data is coming from the telemetry system on the tractor if it's fitted. So the links probably will be both ways. Currently in the testing phase, we've only got a link from Fent One to Fent Connect, but I'm sure it will do.
That's great, thank you. It sounds like a really exciting thing coming throughout the year and onwards. I think could Andy, I can't read this whole question very easily. Could Andy comment on where the best advice seems to come from with variable rate use? A poor bit of land to some is an area that needs more seed, to others the thoughts are less seed. There does not seem to be totally common thoughts on this, hence why they're not doing it. I assume they mean variable rate at this time.
Okay, well, I suppose we are a software manufacturer, so we tend to not give out agronomic advice. I can't honestly say what's best to do for the field. That would be a discussion with yourself and your agronomist on how you wish to treat that land. What's the most cost-effective way to deal with it? Certainly, we can kind of look at what you're planning to do with it, and I think with the margin maps, you can kind of get an idea of whether or not that land is worth spending the money on, as it were. And as I say, I think Adam's covered previously how margin maps really gives you an insight into lands capability of achieving what you want, and whether it's not, and just take it out and put it into something, another scheme of some description. So I can't, obviously, what's the best way to do it? Certainly, I can show you the easiest way to do variable rate and the quickest way to do variable rate. Why you'd want to do that would be your own decisions. I can't honestly comment on that, but I can certainly, happy to have a discussion and see what comes out of that, certainly.
Thanks, Andy. One more question for you. As Adam said, we're not shying away from the difficult questions. When will John Deere Gen 4 be up and running on the cloud? So I'm not sure what they fully mean by that question, but I'll pass that one to you as our technical expert.
So obviously, Gen 4 is the controller. My John Deere is their cloud platform. Currently, Gatekeeper can connect to my John Deere via Gatekeeper sends data to my Gen 4. Gen 4 controllers ingest what they call Gen 3 data. So we send them Gen 3 data and they create Gen 4 data, and we ingest that back into Gatekeeper, all via the cloud. So that's wireless, no different to what Ben's been showing you with Fent and Taskdoc and Varidoc sort of thing. So that is currently available.
Great, thank you. Another question, Ben, about where do they go to load Fent One?
So it's not released yet. So the planned rollout, and we are just in a trial phase at the moment, is that purchasing a Fent One tractor, so a new platform tractor, will be the ticket to access Fent One in the first release. The provisional plan at the moment is approximately July time. So if you've bought a new Fent One tractor, the provisional plan is July, but that is subject to successful testing. So this may not pass some of the quality gates in reliability and functionality as we go through the testing phase.
Great, thank you. So I think we've reached the hour, so I'll call and end the questions now.
Sorry, Emily.
Oh, Adam, yep, go ahead, of course.
Sorry, just before we close, I just wanted to go back on Carl's question again. And Andy's absolutely right. We're not really best placed to give any ergonomic advice on there. But what I would say is there's a couple of things that I would suggest about using Gatekeeper to maybe help inform that discussion. And that is, Gatekeeper's got great analytic potential and can give you some good insights to start that discussion with somebody who's an expert on that, with agronomists, other people like that. So, for example, even if you're not doing any variable rate activity, Andy mentioned margin maps, but even if you are recording yield as a strip rate increase, just as a recording job, you're going to see an extra column come on your margin map on each field, and that gives you a cost of production per tonne. So that might be a really good place to start. Look, what is it costing me per tonne of product on the fleet I'm spending it over when I'm doing flat rate? To start asking some questions and exploring that, because I think that lends another dimension to, normally we look at things on cost per hectare, but actually when you change that and frame it as cost per tonne production, that's quite different. And the other thing is, like Andy suggested, very, very easy and quick and Gatekeeper to draw some polygons around and zone your field and have a go. If we switch the target generator on, you can get that one in Gatekeeper. Relatively low cost, draw some zones in there, and just have a trial of it, just go and play. You produce really quite cost-effective variable rate feedback on fields as a trial, and see how you get on with it. So I would say there's a couple of things Gatekeeper you can use as help. And now we're overrunning, so I'll stop talking. But
thank you so much. It's great to see your passion, and definitely, of course, if you've got questions, get in touch with our support team. We can discuss your training options and everything like that. I'd like to thank everyone for their time today, and our presenters, Ben, Adam, Andy, Simon, thank you so much. I hope this was useful. And as Simon said, we've got more coming in this series. Keep your eyes peeled, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, and that's the end of today's session. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, guys.